Roger's reincarnation. 10 traits Luffy shares with Roger. It's no exaggeration to say that Gol D Roger holds the greatest key to unlocking the story of One Piece. As the Pirate King who conquered the Grand Line, Roger was at first portrayed as a powerful figure in history who is unrelated to the current story. But now, almost 25 years into the serialization of One Piece, it's becoming more and more clear just how connected Roger's existence is to the mysteries of One Piece. Speaking of mysteries, there are many traits that Roger shares with our protagonist Luffy, and many fans are wondering if even bigger similarities will be revealed in future developments. Hello! We are One Piece fanatics! As the series approaches its main and final plotline, we have selected 10 traits that Roger and Luffy share to thoroughly investigate. The wanted posters. First, let's take a look at their wanted posters. It's actually covered up here, but let's pay close attention. Look below the letter D on the word wanted. There's something written in small letters. If we enlarge the image, we can't clearly make it out, but judging from the shape, there's a good chance it says Jeopardy! But those letters also appeared when Luffy's bounty jumped above 1.5 billion bellies. And there are several cases where other people's bounties had the area beneath the letter D covered up by things like speech bubbles. But because Whitebeard's bounty has something written on it, and because there's a good chance that it's written on other high bounty wanted posters, we can't say that it's a trait shared exclusively by Luffy and Roger. But because we can't fully read the letters, there's a strong possibility that it's foreshadowing something. The family of D. Roger's real name is Gol D Roger. Luffy's real name is Monkey D. Luffy. Families with a D in their names are said to belong to the family of D. Within the family of D, there's also the Portgas family, which Luffy's sworn brother Ace was born into. There's the Marshall family, with Blackbeard Teach was born into, and many others in the family of D that are thought to be pivotal to the plot of One Piece. The celestial dragons in Marijois refer to the family of D as sworn enemies of the gods, Hooyah! And keep a watchful eye over their actions. Does gods refer directly to the celestial dragons or a different entity? Many questions still remain regarding the family of D. The Straw Hat. Luffy's trademark straw hat was given to him by Shanks when he was a young boy, but we learned halfway through the series that before Shanks, Roger wore the hat originally. Furthermore, locked within a freezer-like room in the Holy Land of Marijois, there's confirmed to be a giant straw hat kept under heavy security. Doflamingo once said these words in Dressrosa, "Because I know of a great national treasure inside of Marijois. Its very existence will shake the world." That national treasure he's referring to is thought to be the giant straw hat. Who would have thought that the trademark straw hat would be the center of such a huge mystery? Hats off to Oda Sensei for setting this up so long ago. Born in the East Blue. Luffy was born in the Eastern Ocean in Fuchsia Village. Roger was born in the same ocean in Logtown. Logtown was the place where Roger was born and later executed, and thus is known as the town of the beginning and the end. It's the town many East Blue pirates stopped by before entering the Grand Line. Actually, Luffy also stopped by on the way to the Grand Line. Logtown still has the platform where Roger was executed. There, Luffy got caught by Buggy and was nearly executed himself. The moment the knife swung down and touched his neck, he said, "Sorry guys, I'm dead," and gave a smile that showed he was prepared for death. Smoker saw this scene and said, "He smiled. That Straw Hat man, just like Roger the Pirate King smiled at his execution here 22 years ago." And as he spoke, Luffy and Roger's images overlapped. There may be meaning in the fact that both Luffy and Roger started their adventure in the East Blue, the weakest of all the oceans. Furthermore, it's hard to understand why an accomplished pirate like Shanks would spend long periods of time in the East Blue in the first chapter. But it looks like we're getting pretty close to uncovering these secrets. The gap between his Nakama's opinion and the public opinion. What was everyone's impression of Roger when first reading the series? When the Great Pirate Era began, sparked by Roger, they called him the Pirate King, and instead of an ally of justice, people saw him as a pirate with immense power who plunged the world into chaos. Even Ace was called a demon child and persecuted because of this. Other than among pirates, the public's impression of him was not a very good one. But as we progress in the series, how does our impression change? In flashback scenes, we see the public opinion change just like they did with Luffy. We see Roger's heroic and daring aspects, him carrying out his own justice and treasuring his nakama, and even though he has rival pirates and enemy marines, he does not despise them. In this way, Luffy also has a bad reputation. While it's true that the news only shows them as crazy pirates that bring about chaos, at this point in the series, there's a very impressive gap between the opinions of those who know Luffy and those who don't. Haoshoku Haki. This power resides only in those who possess the qualities of a king. They say that only 1 in several million people possess Haoshoku Haki. It's different from other Haki, because you can't manifest it simply by training. Even in this age, only a few strong characters possess this power. The first time Luffy was confirmed to have this power was in Sabaody Archipelago. He subconsciously used it against Motobaro while fighting with the Flying Fish Riders to save Hachi. And later, while saving Ace, he used it in a state of high emotion. Then, after training 2 years with Rayleigh, he had complete control over it at Fishman Island. So we see that Luffy was gifted at birth with the qualities of a king with Haoshoku Haki. And Roger was confirmed to also possess Haoshoku Haki. In the Wano Country arc, Oden's flashback depicts Roger's crew fighting against Whitebeards. There, Roger and Whitebeard cross swords, but their Haoshoku Haki is so strong that their swords do not touch and instead send powerful shockwaves to their surroundings. As the captain of his crew, Roger has many abilities stored away, and because he's the man who has reached the summit as Pirate King, the strength of his Haoshoku Haki must be top class, higher than anyone in the world of One Piece. Luffy also has quite strong Haoshoku Haki, but it's still in the process of being strengthened through battle. We have yet to see if Luffy's Haoshoku Haki will surpass Roger's or not. Doesn't like conquering. One thing Luffy and Roger both dislike is conquering. In Sabaody, Roger's right-hand man Rayleigh asked Luffy this.
In the Grand Line, there are things that far surpass your wildest imaginations, and the enemies are strong. Do you have what it takes to conquer such a powerful sea?
Luffy immediately replies with, I don't want to conquer anything. I just think that the guy with the most freedom in the whole ocean is the Pirate King. In a similar way, Roger's rival Shiki the Golden Lion told him this. What if I told you I've spent a long time on a perfect plan that we can use to immediately conquer this world? Become my right-hand man, Roger. When he heard this, Roger said, I have no interest in conquering Shiki. What's the point in being a pirate if I can't do the things I want to do? As two pirates with no interest in power and control, Luffy and Roger's value systems are extremely similar. Compared to the Marines who tout justice and the world government who is preoccupied with ruling, Luffy and Roger, though pirates, are able to carry out true justice on several occasions. Also, as the two have no interest in ruling, they're also not very good at listening to others. And Luffy, as you know, once he's chosen his course of action, hardly even listens to the opinions of his nakama. In the same way, Roger's crew member Scooper Gaban said this about Roger. Give it up. We've traveled together for a long time, but we've never once succeeded in stopping Roger. We get the sense that one of the main themes in One Piece is the two opposing forces of freedom versus control. Can talk to Sea Kings. In the Fishman Island arc, when Luffy was desperately attacking Noah as it fell towards Fishman Island, a voice rang out saying, Stop. That voice belonged to a Sea King. After the Sea Kings stopped Noah from falling and went on their way, they began to speak amongst themselves.
The human could sense our voices.
Impossible. But that's happened before.
You're right. It has.
Immediately afterwards, we see a flashback to the time the Sea Kings were referring to. It showed Roger's crew traveling along the bottom of the ocean. At that time, Oden was on the ship and he could also hear the voices of the Sea Kings, but it seemed that Rayleigh could not. Both Gol D, Roger, and Oden could hear the same things being said. They could not speak with the Sea Kings, but they could hear their great voices. According to Pedro, not only Luffy, but Roger and Oden could hear Zunisha's great voice. though they could not converse with him. And Rayleigh said this about Roger:
He could hear the voice of all things.
which means that Roger could hear the voices of things other than just Sea Kings, and could possibly converse with them. We've seen that Luffy can communicate his intentions with animals, and there are many scenes of them leading the charge together as if they were nakama. Regardless, we know that even among the fishermen, only the ancient weapon Poseidon, also known as Shirahoshi, can converse with Sea Kings. But Luffy and Roger possessed a power equal to the ancient weapon Poseidon, so we're really looking forward to seeing how this ability will be used in the future. Both have the same presence. So far, Luffy has passed through countless islands on the Grand Line. In the process, he has encountered many people who have faced Roger in the past, and each of them say that Luffy reminds them of Roger. For example, on Sky Island, Ganfall said this when they met.
The Straw Hat Boy. I can't help but think that his presence resembles Roger from the past.
And again, Nekomamushi and Inuarashi showed Luffy their road poneglyph, which they had protected for generations and had never showed to anyone but Roger. As for the reason, Pedro said it was because they saw Luffy's image overlap with Roger's. Presence is an ambiguous thing, but certainly everyone who has read One Piece can sense a similarity in Luffy and Roger's presence. Those words. Luffy's goal is to become the king of the pirates. Until Luffy, Ace, and Sabo's past was revealed during the Summit War saga, everyone thought that. But in chapter 574, as Ace is dying, he expressed his regret that he won't get to see the end result of Luffy's dream. The end result of dreams is not a commonly used phrase, but we know Luffy's dream is to become the Pirate King. So the nuance is that once Luffy does that, there's something else he wants to do. The story continues in chapter 858, where Luffy proclaims his personal dream to Ace and Sabo. What he said is still a mystery, but the end result of the dream Luffy was talking about was discussed in chapter 1000 during Ace and Yamato's conversation. Seeing that this end result left Ace and Sabo speechless, we can guess that it's something so bizarre a normal person couldn't even fathom it. Furthermore, as the final storyline began in chapter 1060, Luffy told his crew members the end result of his dream. The characters' reactions varied, but they said it was very Luffy-like, so we can tell that it must be an astounding and very interesting dream. From here on, we'll shift the focus to Roger. One of the foreshadowed things related to Roger that hasn't happened yet is the topic of those words. In chapter 506, Shanks said, Rayleigh, we really were shocked. There was a brat in the East Blue who said the same things that Roger did. Those words from our captain. Though Shanks said this, the content of Luffy's words haven't yet been revealed. In chapter 966, before Roger arrived at Laugh Tale, there's a scene with Whitebeard and Oden exchanging drinks. There, Roger says, Once we arrive, we'll officially be the #1 pirates in the world. That's right. Once we do that, we'll... Then he uttered something, and when they heard it, Whitebeard and Oden were both speechless. The reaction was exactly the same as Ace and Sabo's when Luffy proclaimed the end result of his dream. Furthermore, Sabo's nose and Ace's forehead had bandages, and in the exact same way, Oden's nose and Whitebeard's forehead also had bandages. The scenes were intentionally drawn with the same composition. In other words, there's little doubt that those words of Roger were the exact same as Luffy's. But what exactly were those words? Since these two are known for causing unprecedented events never seen before, it's likely something extremely bizarre, but also an extraordinary surprise that will put a smile on everyone's face. So, how was our explanation? This time, we took a look at 10 traits that our protagonist Luffy shares with the Pirate King Gol D Roger. What is this end result dream that the two share? While we all want to know it, as soon as we learn the truth, One Piece will probably end, and so we also don't want to know it. It's quite an impatient feeling, you know? If you feel that Luffy and Roger have even more things in common, feel free to leave a comment, and if you're interested in more One Piece content in the future, please subscribe to our channel. That's all for today. We'll see you in the next video.